Hi, I'm Tamara Duarte from Longmire and Badsville, and you are listening to the Dave and Creech Show.
This is the Dave and Creech Show, the only podcast where podcaster CJ Creech and actor Dave Sheridan come together to talk all things entertainment with your favorite entertainers. Want to ask our guests a question? Tweet them to @DaveSheridan or @CJCNOV88, and they may be asked to our guests live on the show. We do have to ask you stay seated during the podcast because this ride may get a little bit hilarious. Now here's your hosts, Dave and Creech.
Hey everybody out there, and welcome to the Dave and Creech Show. It is episode 43 today. I am your host for today, Creech. Normally Dave Sheridan is here as well, but unfortunately, hate to be the bearer of bad news. He was on such a good streak of being able to make these shows, but unfortunately he's unable to join us today, guys. He's working on a new project, and I wish I could tell you more about it, but I don't know enough about it myself. He's been working long hours and early morning shoots, and obviously we wish him the best. He should be done with it very soon. As a matter of fact, by this coming weekend, he should be pretty done. But we'll know for sure the next time we got him on the show. Maybe we'll bring it up, and hopefully he can give us a little more information on what's going on. But as I was saying, yes, I am your host, CJ Creech. Dave Sheridan will be joining us on the next episode, and we've got a pretty good episode for you today. Actually, we've got a fantastic guest who I had a blast interviewing, Miss Tamara Duarte, and she is phenomenal. She's a great actress. She's actually really fun to talk to. She's pretty funny, and I think you guys are gonna love this interview almost as much as I did actually doing it. But yeah, I was trying to think of stuff to do for this episode, but it's kind of weird doing a podcast by myself, and that's the really the funny thing, because for those who don't know, and I've mentioned it a little bit on previous podcasts, but I used to do a podcast by myself called Creech Questions, and it ran for 48 episodes. So for the most part, other than when I had a co-host, the Walking Dead wrap-up co-host Alyssa Mullen was actually a co-host at one point, as was Chastity Valentine. But for the most part, most of these episodes I actually did solo. And I don't know, it's so funny. I haven't listened to these podcasts since they've aired. One, because, like Dave Sheridan himself, my fellow co-host likes to say so much, he lived them. Well, I lived them and then edited them. So I usually don't listen to them again. It's not like it'd take a long time, because they're only like 45 minutes a piece, if that. Actually, most of them I think were 30. But, I try to think back and figure out, what did I used to talk about for a half hour or for 45 minutes? And to be honest, I don't know. I really don't, because I looked up a little bit of news this week, but in the same thing, it's kind of weird. Okay, so there are some news stations where they still have one anchor or whatever, but most time news is like co-anchors nowadays, and plus, you want differing points of view. I've already read and looked up this stuff, and one of the things I think that y'all out there dig, could be wrong, is the fact that you like Dave Sheridan reacting to this stuff, because he obviously doesn't stay as tuned into the news as we do. But yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out what to talk about. So I will mention that The Walking Dead just had its season finale, and pretty amazing episode. Obviously, once again, it's like we've got all these segments, and so I don't want to talk about it too much, because next week you're going to hear Alyssa and me and possibly a couple of other actors talk about The Walking Dead. We're going to see who all we can kind of wrangle up and, do that whole rigmarole of The Walking Dead wrap-up, which actually I love doing. So it's always a blast to get to chat with these people. But it was a great episode. If you didn't catch it, definitely make sure you do, obviously, before you listen to next week's episode. I haven't actually done much. It's been a lot of editing and recording and interviews. I will say this, guys. Interview-wise, we are done with interviews for this year. I mean, I'm actually... As you're listening to this, I will actually literally be recording an interview with James Frazier of the Walker Stalkers podcast for next week. Now, the next couple of guests are going to be some fantastic interviews that I've been able to do throughout the year. It's kind of weird how when you look at social media and news events and everything, how certain things wind up taking precedence. And that's kind of like the same thing that happened with some of these interviews. I mean, we've got some interviews that we've recorded, as far back as February of this year that were meaning to be released at certain points, but then kind of got pushed back because other events wound up, springing up, and we had these interviews with the guests or we had these guests then line up for interviews for us to promote. So it's kind of that whole situation there where it's like, we go with the flow, but we've got some great interviews, and even though I've got to go take my car in the shop tomorrow to get it ready to travel to Charlotte this weekend, I will be doing interviews this weekend at Walker Stalker Con Charlotte. Not only will I be there, but more than likely Dave Sheridan will be there for one of the days, so if you are in Charlotte, around the area of the convention, make sure you come in and say hey to us. I mean, I don't bite. I'm just, a slightly chubby... Well, slightly. I'm a very chubby guy with a growing beard again, and Dave is Dave. We'll be around the floor. We'll be doing celebrity interviews. We might even be doing some Facebook Live because that's what people do nowadays. So I don't know exactly what all we're going to do, but we're definitely going to take advantage of the time together and actually get some stuff, some cool stuff shot for all you listeners out there, for our YouTube page, for our Twitter, ads, what have you. So once again, that is, if you are in Charlotte, Walker Stalker Con Charlotte, make sure you come out. It's going to be a great time. They've got many of the cast of The Walking Dead. There's over 40 guests, and they're not just all Walking Dead. There's Night of the Living Dead and Breaking Bad. There's a ton of great people there that you should definitely come out and see. And I'm trying to think of what else to talk about, guys, without going into further details or talking news. But because there's a lot of stuff happening in news right now, but we got to get both me and Dave's opinion, and I don't want to give you my opinions, to be honest, and then be like, all right, Dave, so what do you think? So we will hold off on doing that for next week. So honestly, what this episode's going to be, guys, this is going to be a pretty short episode, all things considered. It's going to be me talking, which you've just had to suffer through, maybe close to 10 minutes, which I do apologize. And then I guess we'll go ahead and get into our interview this week with Tamara Duarte. She's been in some pretty impressive stuff since 2010. She's been on Degrassi, The Next Generation, and she's on Longmire, which is a huge show that has a tremendous following. As a matter of fact, my dad's a huge fan of Longmire, and he was really mad when A&E canceled it. And he was excited to find out that Netflix has renewed it. And, I haven't even told him that I've had somebody on our podcast yet. He doesn't normally listen to the podcast, but I'm pretty sure if I told him that we had somebody from Longmire, he'd be pretty excited. Actually, I do want to take this moment before we do the interview to give a shout out to my dad. He actually had surgery a couple days ago to remove a non-cancerous tumor, so love and well wishes are obviously sent in my dad's way And if anybody out there wants to send some love, that'd be cool too. But I know he's going to be very excited. Normally I interview people from The Walking Dead, and while he likes the show, he doesn't watch it as religiously as most of our listeners do, including myself. And he may not know some of the character names, but he loved Longmire. So actually, probably when he is fully rested, I will tell him that I interviewed somebody from Longmire. He's probably going to be mad that I didn't tell him before I did the interview, because I'm pretty sure he'd had a million questions. But without any further ado, here is my interview with Tamara Duarte from Longmire. She's going to be in Badsville. Hope you enjoy. Thank you again for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
You're very
I'm
welcome.
excited. And who am I speaking with? Am I speaking to which? Because there's two of you, right?
Yeah. There's Dave Sheridan and myself. I'm Creech.
Okay, Creech. That's an interesting name. I saw that and I was like, I can't pronounce that, so I'm not going to say it.
yeah. Well, it's my last name, but I feel like with the title, it sounds better than Dave and CJ.
Yeah, I like the Creech.
Yes, yeah.
It gives it a little more.
Yeah, Dave apologizes.
Yeah.
He normally does the interviews with me. However, he's working on a film right now, so he was unable to make it.
Oh, nice. Good for him. Which film is he working on?
He can't tell me, and that's the annoying thing. He signed an NDA.
Yeah.
So it's like he gives me hints that really don't tell what it is.
I don't really like telling people what I'm working on until I'm on set working, because with the industry, you just really never know. Like, I just want to do my first day or 2 days, and then I'm like, okay, now we can come out.
Yeah, that, and then like I know I have some friends who they've been in The Walking Dead. They were like, yes, I'm finally in the show, because they were fans long before it, but then the cutting room floor happens, and then most of their stuff gets cut out, and they're like, well, that was, wish I wouldn't have really promoted that I was going to be on it that much.
Yeah, it happens. It definitely happens. I'm actually heading out to work on something on Saturday, and working on it until April, and I'm not able, I don't want to say anything until I'm, actually working. So I'm like, okay, just hold it in a little bit longer, and then I can actually, tell people.
I do want to make sure that I do pronounce your name correctly. It's Tamara Duarte?
Tamara.
Okay.
You can just say Tam. Tam is fine.
Tam? Okay.
Yeah, Tam is fine.
All right. And
yeah, it's hard because it's some people say Tamara, Tamara, and it's all over the map. But I really don't care what people call me, but some people are very specific. They're like, no, how do you really say it? I'm like, honestly, sometimes if my dad's angry at me, he'll say Tamara. Sometimes my mom says Tam, my sister says T. It's all over the map.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one of those things I definitely agree. I'm kind of like the same situation with my real name, but it's not that necessarily there's different pronunciations of it. There's just multiple people with the same first name in my family. Because the C stands for Charles, and there's 6 or 7 people named Charles. So it's CJ works.
Well, I have a stepson, and it's kind of a similar situation because his name is Joe Pacheco, and then my husband's name is Joe Pacheco, and his father's name is Joe Pacheco. So there's, junior, senior, and then the third.
Oh, yeah. And,
a lot.
Yep, those names are just always the funnest thing.
For sure.
But I guess the first question I got for you, obviously, everybody's story generally is different, and I find it the most interesting. I know it's something that a lot of our fans really dig. What was the thing that led you to getting to acting?
I've always loved performing, and from a very young age. Both of my parents are first-generation Canadian, so I was, they had a cleaning company, and I cleaned grocery stores from the age of, 9 until until I was about 15, and then I have vivid memories of me, literally being in, an empty grocery store and just performing and doing silly things while I'm, mopping the floor. And my sisters both were in these plays that are, they're called, folklore kind of plays that are done in the Portuguese Community Center in Toronto. And I just started doing that and started being heavily involved within the community. And I saw them perform, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to, dance around and have a tambourine and, because it's live song and dance, and perform and sing. And so the next year I got into it, and then my older sister took me to an agency, and, that was a little short-lived because she had to, she was in college at the time, so she couldn't really bring me back and forth. And my parents, they're first generation Canadian, they're like, do you want to do what? They're like, no, you're going to school. So I kind of just stuck with it. And I didn't really do it throughout high school. I did it, in my years of university. I was studying and then continued to do it afterwards. And, it was great because I started doing commercials first and kind of paved my way throughout school because, my parents couldn't afford to put me through school. So I paid my way through that. I booked a bunch of commercials and then from there I'm like, you know what, I want to continue to do this. And I had a bunch of jobs that were including I worked for, Citibank as a credit negotiator / collector for 3 years while I was in school, while I was auditioning, and then I was bartending part-time as well. So my life at that time, I definitely don't want to ever go back to that time because, it's super stressful working all those jobs and acting at the same time. So I slowly kind of let go of those odds and end jobs and pursued my acting full time.
Well, yeah, that's fantastic to see that you followed your passion and you got out there.
Mm-hmm.
And one question I have, because it's always funny to see if there's any stories with some of the actors that we've had on, because some, like you said, had to, when you started, you were working a full-time, part-time job or whatever, and doing the acting. Was there was there ever any stories of trying to avoid people who may have recognized you from starring in something?
Completely, yes, 100%. I was, I'm a Canadian actor, and when I was living in Toronto, I was shooting Degrassi at the time. And while I was shooting Degrassi for the duration of 2 years, I was also bartending at one of the clubs downtown called Maison. So I was down there, and I would literally serve people who'd be like, oh my God, you're on Degrassi. I'm like, yes, I am. What can I get you to drink? And it was humbling, and I'm really happy that I did it, and it was an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of Degrassi, I know it was definitely very huge up there in Canada, and it still had a pretty loyal following down here in America as well. What was it to be one of your first main starring roles, to be on such a show of that profile?
I think at that point I learned, I always loved what I did, and I just didn't understand why I was doing it. I just loved what I did. And I think I hit a point, which was, I did much music. It's kind of like an MTV. And we had an autograph signing and a bunch of stuff. And then I started to receive letters, and I received this letter on that day, and several others. And I played a lesbian on the show, and I never realized until that point how much I affected people through my art. And I think it was such a great experience, and I realized, oh, I have a past, and this is why I'm doing it. And, you know, people live vicariously through my characters, and they connect to my characters, and they, you know, and they can help people. So I really understood on a broader spectrum of why I do what I do. And I will forever be grateful to Degrassi for that, specifically that life lesson.
Okay, and I know you had mentioned, you know, growing up in Canada, and one thing I'm slowly, I mean, I only have one movie title to my name, but Dave is actually living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a lot of the actors now I'm noticing they're getting very successful by branching out from the New Yorks and the LAs. Do you live in LA, or are you still based in Canada?
I actually reside, I have two residents. I have one in LA and one in Henderson, Nevada. So my husband is the director of operations for a company called SBE out in Nevada. So we run a couple of venues out here, one at the T-Mobile Arena and a couple of other ones. And, you know, we got this offer to come out and also be closer to his son. And I think it just kind of everything transpired for us to be here. And at the beginning, I'm like, you got 6 months, dude. I am not living in Vegas. You know, and we got to figure this out. But you know, I think at the same time, simultaneously, his son moved here, and it was, you know, I think it's just back then. It's like, okay, this is where I'm meant to be. So, and I think going back and forth from LA, it's so easy, and it's like, you know, a half-hour flight, so you can just jump on a flight that day if you needed to. And I kind of like being outside of the city, to be honest. I lived there for 4 years, and it was very hectic, and there's always something going on. And it was nice to kind of step out of that. And I'm taking classes at UCLA, so to start my writing and get creative in other ways, and you know, find out the community that's out here, because there's a huge community in Vegas, you know, performing community. So it's nice to, like, be around other artists and really meet people, and, yeah, so, I mean, I really enjoy being here.
Speaking of other opportunities, especially the film world itself has many opportunities, and, you know, you've done a lot of acting. Is there any other aspect of filmmaking that either you would like to spend more time in, or that you'd like to give a shot at?
Yeah, it would be writing and producing. I mean, I produced something years ago, and I also worked for a company in Canada and did commercials. So I produced a lot of commercials at the time, and I learned a lot about what goes on behind the camera. And I would definitely love to continue to do that and act as well, but, you know, I want to be able to be a creator and a storyteller in other ways. So, but writing is definitely something that I love and hate at the same time.
I can only imagine.
It's a new venture, right? I've never really done it before. I mean, I wrote and produced and directed something. Actually, no, my friend Michelle Morgan directed it. I wrote it and produced it, and it was something simple. It was like 5 minutes, and it's interesting because I didn't think I could do it. And every time I think I can't do something, I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. And just hit it head on, because, you know, living in that fear every day is not fun. So I'm like, oh, I can actually do this, and I'm good at it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I know I would be horrified to write anything. Not from the writing. I mean, because writing's always fun. It's when people start picking it apart, and then they're like, yeah, we don't like this or we don't like that. I hate rejection, so that would be horrible for me.
Yeah, the whole rejection thing, for sure. Yeah, I know all about that. I mean, we're acting for so long, and I'm like, okay. Like, you want to throw that out? We're good. But yeah, I think it's a life lesson, right? And it's also so personal, because it's yours. So it's like you have to learn how to take criticism, or like constructive criticism, well, and also learn how to go with your instincts and follow your instincts, which is a completely different thing. So, you know, I think there's such a fine line between that really learning what to throw away and what not, and what works and what not, and yeah, it's a learning curve for sure.
Oh yeah,
and also trying it. There's nothing like someone saying something and not letting your ego get in the way, because people will say something and you can go, no, like that doesn't work. Like, that's not going to, and go right into your ego and the stubbornness. But when I think being creative, you have to be like, okay, I'm going to try it. And you try it, and it may not work, or it may work. And I think it's so important to just try it and see if it works, and not let all of the other stuff get in the way. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Especially, I always go by I feel like it's almost like a horror movie mentality where you just do whatever you want, shoot whatever you want, and then you can censor it and cut it down later.
Yeah, totally. You have to let your mind go a little crazy first, and then it might put it back.
yeah.
And the thing is, like, you can't get caught up with, that's one thing that I learned recently, is like, not getting caught up with the details, but just getting it out, and then going back, and then after if it tells you inside, you can't do it, why are you doing this? You got to be like, well, it's good, and I always say this, I'm like, this might suck really bad, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm like, this might suck, like, and just literally, that gives me the creative freedom to just write, as opposed to allowing that internal criticism to get the best of me, you know?
Yeah, very true. It's pretty awesome that you have such a positive outlook on it, for sure.
Yeah, I think that, or else I'm not going to write. It would just be like, the end. I can't do this.
Yeah, that would probably be my movie. It's like intro and then the end. I write a good intro and that's it.
That's great. Yeah, for sure.
Now, how did you get involved with Longmire? Was I'm assuming there was an audition process, and agents were probably involved. But how did you get involved?
I auditioned for. Are you in LA? Where are you located?
I am actually based out of Charleston, which would be on the other side, South Carolina. And Dave's based in Charlotte, North Carolina. But I've never actually been over to LA. I've been to New York, but right now I'm in Charleston.
Yeah. So there's this casting director out here. Her name's Libby Goldstein. She's amazing. She's a great fan, and I love her. And she's also very tough. And she's just known as being, one of the tougher casting directors to break through with. And I went into this audition, and I thought I did a horrible job. I mean, well, first off, it's a very gritty role, as you know, and it's a native. She lives on the res, and she's just a troublemaker, and she's a drug user, and just super gritty, and just a little, she has a lot of demons that she needs to deal with. And I woke up, and I was wearing the same tank top, and I literally didn't brush my teeth, wash my face, or shower or anything. I'm like, okay, I'm going to, because just for me, I think it's so important to just live in that character, and it doesn't work thank God it was at 11 a.m., not at 5:30 p.m. But I think that she wasn't the type of character that would wake up and do all that stuff. She's just not that kind of girl. If anything, she wakes up and has a coffee and a cigarette, and then decides, or maybe a spliff or something, but that isn't what I do, so I had to, I kind of feel her out, and my husband's like, aren't you going to shower and brush your teeth and stuff? I'm like, no, I'm going straight to the audition. And he's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know. So I went, and I thought I just did she didn't look up once, and it was kind of like, okay, thanks for having me. And I left, and I cried in my car, and I was like, oh, because you get to your wits end with certain things, and I think at that point I was just like, okay, I'm over this. And then I get a call, literally 5 minutes later, they're like, you're booked. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, they loved you. And I'm like, okay. Amazing. So, oh no, was I booked or I got a call back? No, I was booked. And it's funny because a friend of mine, TJ Scott, who's a director who directed that specific episode, but we haven't, we didn't talk. And he hits me up and he's like, oh my God, the producers just got back to me and they said they only had one choice and they sent me the tape and it was you. And I'm like, that's crazy. And he's like, I'm so sorry I didn't. And then he felt bad for not calling me and telling me about the audition ahead of time. But yeah, so that's how it went down. And then I went on set and I did the guest star role, and then it kind of became more of a recurring guest star role. So I'm up to like 6 or 7 episodes now. And, they just really like the character. And I found out from the writer, who's in New York, that it's based on a real character. And this character, this person is now doing, I think, 10 years in jail or something like that. And we had, me and the writer had a big heart-to-heart at that point. And it was so touching to know and to feel this character so much. I think I went up to the writer and I said, thank you so much. And I'm honored. And she's like, you have her essence. And I'm like, she's a really, and I think I kept going hearing him, like, she's a really sad person and very and I kind of described her and she started crying and she's like, that's her. And I'm like, it's nice when things kind of align in that sense. So, I love playing Mandy. I think she's so amazing. So, I think there's so much, she just can't, live in her own skin. There's so much going on. She's bigger than life itself. And yeah, I'm, so happy to be going back for the next season, which is great.
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially, it's on Netflix. It's got that wide fan base and passionate fan base. Because if I remember correctly, it was originally on, I believe it was A&E, and then for some reason they canceled it, and then Netflix brought it back because the fans.
Uh-huh. And because Netflix picked it up, it just got grittier, and I was part of that grit of being able to swear and all of that stuff. So that was really fun to break into and allow the actual show to mold into something else, which was nice.
Yeah, it's always.
I'll give you a clue. I'm actually working on another Western. I can't tell you which one or on what channel yet. You just got to pay attention to my social media. Once it's posted.
Right now,
but yeah, I love Western.
Now I'm probably gonna have more sleepless nights trying to figure out yet another movie.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just happening all around you.
Yes. Well, Westerns are seeing a huge resurgence right now too, so it might be hard to figure it out.
Yeah, might be.
But yeah, there's you were obviously in Degrassi and Longmire, two long-running successful shows, and you've also been doing more and more projects. I mean, before we got on the phone, I checked out your IMDb page just to see, and you've been pretty busy in 2016, and 2017 is shaping up to be the same way. Is there any projects maybe that you've already done that's already been announced? It's not a secret anymore, that you're really looking forward to being released?
I'm really looking forward to 2 different things. It's called My XX, which I did quite a while ago, and I did it with my friend Catherine, and we'll be working together at some point in time in the future, because she's a creator and director and producer and writer and all that stuff. But yeah, so it's called My XX. It's going to be on Netflix, and then they're going to do a slow burn release. I think it's going to be at AMC. And then there's another project called Bad Bill, and it's a little smaller. They're doing a slow burn release as well, but a lot of film festivals, which I've never really done in the United States. So I just got a chance to go to Alamo in Texas, and the Alamo Comic-Con, and that was really cool because I've never been to Texas. And I'm going to be able to go to a couple of different states within the next year and go and promote Badsville. So it's Badville and the XX that I'm excited about. Also, I'm going to be shooting another season of Hard Rock Medical, which is a Canadian show, and it deals with the Aboriginal community and the trials and the tribulations that they go through with not having enough medicine in the north. And I play a med student, so I'll be in my 4th year because it's the 4th season. I'm really excited to go back and shoot that. And then I'll be shooting Longmire again, and then this new project until April. So it's honestly just such a blessing to be working and working.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like I'm going to hashtag create a new nickname for your fans, but it sounds like it's going to be a great time to be a Tam fan.
Tam fan, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. It's good because as artists and as being in the entertainment industry, it is hard, and you try to follow your passion as much as you can, and you're going to get people saying you can't, and then people saying that you're amazing, and you're trying to find a happy medium of how to be better. How can I be better without hearing all the negativity or the overly like you're amazing? And I'm like, I don't want to hear I'm amazing. I actually want like good constructive criticism so I can be better. Or I don't want to hear that I'm horrible because that's just going to break my heart. So it's kind of finding that happy medium and working as hard as you can, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's always nice to find that middle ground.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, out of all the projects you've done so far, and like you said, you've had recurring roles on multiple shows, is there any role that you've portrayed or played that has meant the most to you? I know you mentioned Longmire and Mandy has struck a chord. Is there any others?
Any others? I would say in Badville. I would say that character for me, I play a girl named Susie Q, and Badville is a greaser movie, and it's based in this like really gritty kind of town. There's like gangs, and there's like one gang versus another gang, and the gang leader falls in love with this character named Susie Q, and he wants to leave the gang and leave the town, and then his best friend is kind of in love with him, and there was like this whole kind of like Romeo and Juliet situation happening. But really cool because it's a greaser movie. So for me, that specific character, she was running away from killing her stepfather, and I've never killed anyone. But her lesson in that film was how to be truly loved. And I think it's such a big life lesson, and I was going through a very similar situation. So I started dating my husband at the time. And I was like, well, where is all this love coming from? I don't want it. And then like self-sabotaging and trying to like, push people away. And that's what I did my whole life. And I was so super independent and always like kind of did it. Like I had this like really tough girl, like I can do it on my own. And I've always kind of been that way. And, this person came into my life and said, no, like I'm here and I love you not because you're an actor or not because you did this or not because like just you as your essence, you as a person. And I've never really had that before. I had my first love of 5 years, and then, dated a bunch of people after that, but this was like a soul connection that you don't experience very often. And I think Susie had that exact same thing. And how to deal with it, how to deal with like being loved, like it felt gross, like I wasn't used to it. Like I'm so used to having that other coat on that is like not, you learn how to be comfortable with it. And then I put this coat on and I'm like, oh, this feels really weird and different, but I'm going to go with it and see what happens. So definitely, I think Badville for sure.
I will say this, Badsville sounds pretty badass.
Yes.
And that's pretty punny.
It's great.
But
You
yes,
need to see it.
I'm actually definitely going to have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, if it's I know it's not like available yet, But if we have something going on in South Carolina, I would definitely hit you up and let you know, because it would be so much fun to see it, for sure. I've seen it like 3 times, and every time I'm like, man, it did such a good job. And you know what I love about it is that the writers and the leads, first time ever writing a film together.
Wow.
First time ever writing, and they wrote this film, and then they starred in it, and they produced it.
Wearing
like,
many hats.
It just gives you so much hope as an artist, you know?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, other than that, obviously, kind of jump back and forth on this show, but with Longmire, it's on Netflix. Everybody, binges shows on Netflix. Now, as an actress, obviously you're very busy, you have an outside life too. But is there any shows that you are currently binging?
Oh, what shows am I not binging is the question. No, I'm put in the nomination committee for SAG this year for TV, and I got sent the sickest packages ever. And but I have Netflix, and I think that the shows that I've been binge watching. Oh my God, where do I start? The Crown is really good on Netflix. I really enjoyed it, surprisingly, because I'm not really into period pieces at all. And I'm binge watching. Oh man, okay. Power is really good. I really like it. Kind of like an Empire-ish show. Sneaky Pete. Trying to binge watch it, but I can't get the episodes. And The Man in the High Castle, which is interesting because it's another period piece. It's so good. Amazon. And also I worked with Callum Keith Rennie, and he's doing the second season in that. And we finished the first season, and I was like, okay, so what do we do now? And what other shows? Yeah, Longmire, obviously, I finished watching that. And which other? Oh, Orphan Black, BBC, obsessed with Orphan Black. Tatiana Maslany kills it. She plays like 5 different characters in it, and I just love her. And yeah, I mean, I could go on and on.
Yeah, it sounds like you have many favorite shows for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's The Walking Dead, and that new show right now. That new show. Oh, Westwood.
Westworld? Or is it
Westworld. Westwood. I'm not saying it right, am I?
I actually don't know it, and I it's like right on the tip of my tongue too as well. And I'm like, is it West?
Yeah, I think it's Westworld. So good, and yeah, I love. Very dynamic, very, very dynamic show. And, yeah, I mean, it's my job, so I have to, I have a policy that I watch every single show, not the whole thing, but if I like the pilot, I'll watch the the next 2, and then if I like that, I'll continue. If I don't, then I stop at 3. Or if I don't like the pilot, then I still give it another chance, and I watch the middle episode and the last episode. Just to get a kind of like a round feel of the whole show and not just watch the pilot,
That sounds actually like a really good rule.
Yeah, beginning, pilot, middle, end. And then that's how I can kind of understand the show a little bit better, and if it comes up in a conversation, I can, understand it and not just say I watched the pilot. I think it's just my job, I have to do that. So, I mean, there are times that I'm watching TV and he's like Gerald will come in and be like, he knows I'm working. Like, I literally have a notepad and I'm like writing. And it's part of, I try to do it at least every day for an hour or 2 and watch something different. I mean, I would love to sit there and binge watch the shows that I love, which is like Men in the High Castle, but I'm like, okay, I only have so much time, and I need to get these other shows in that I've never seen before. And we're in, the age of, we're in, of TV land. Like, there's so much going on. So, and it's overwhelming.
It really is, yeah. It seems like even when you look at films, it seems like TV's where all the innovation is now, and all of the critical darlings usually are now more TV shows than movies. Yeah, and I love the way the Brits do it too with the 6 episodes. I think that's brilliant. I love it, and then they they switch it up and. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, TV for me, I love film too. And the funny thing is I took a film class first at UCLA, and then I was like, I think I need to switch. Because I've always loved shows. I mean, I've had an Apple TV and Netflix for like 7 years. So, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of shows. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it for the podcast today. It seems like it's just started, but we've actually been chatting for like over 30 minutes, and you've always.
Oh my God, that's crazy! You got to cut a lot out.
Oh no, I mean our podcasts are usually about an hour long, so actually we're right at the sweet spot right now.
Perfect.
Yeah, but it's actually been a blast talking with you. If you've got anything, in the future that you've got going on, be sure to let us know. We'll definitely help promote it. You're now a part of the Dave and Creech family.
Yay!
All right, big yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Welcome back, guys. Well, like I said, that's pretty much going to be the podcast today, because I don't want to really drag it out by discussing stuff that we're going to have to rediscuss next week. It's kind of the one detriment to being a co-hosted podcast normally. And other than that, guys, like I said, we've got a busy week this week. Dave's still finishing up on his project. Then we've got Walker Stalker Con Charlotte this week. I've got to get my car in the shop sometime before then, too. And other than that, it's thank you for listening to this short episode, the Daveless episode of the Dave and Creech Show. But more episodes will be on the way with Dave Sheridan. I do want to take a second before we go, though, to ask everybody, if you like this show, if you're listening on YouTube or Spreaker, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and share with your friends. Go ahead and like it. We love to hear from you if you've got any input, whether it's compliments or hate mail. Hit us up on Twitter at Dave and Creech, or you could even do, as Jordan says, send it at CJCNOV88 or at Dave Sheridan on Twitter. We both have our own Facebook pages, but we are both very rarely on there. But feel free to send it to us there. Once again, guys, thank you. This has been episode 43. Hope you've enjoyed. Look for episode 44 next week with James Frazier. It is going to be a great episode. I know it, and I haven't even done the interview yet. But James, if you don't know, obviously, he's one half of the Walker Stalkers podcast, and he started Walker Stalkers Con with Eric Nordoff. Phenomenal guy. Great guy, super nice. And you're going to get to find out all you'd ever want to know about Walker Stalker next week. See you then.
Shut up and sit down.
Thank you for listening to the Dave and Creech Show. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Dave and CJ. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Creech Creative Productions or any of its affiliates.